We are living through one of the biggest changes in history. Technology and work are changing, and so are we. Every day, new technology reshapes our lives, often faster than we can understand it. Grasp what's happening, what it means for you, and how stay ahead. Welcome to The Future Was Yesterday, a podcast where we talk with the leaders who are reshaping the world of work. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here.
What AI is doing is effectively ending the industrial age, which is a great thing because we're returning to living the way we should have been anyway.
I want to present my guest today, Nikki Barua. Welcome, Nikki. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so thrilled for this conversation.
Thank you so much. And to start the conversation, I would like to ask you if you can tell us a little bit about what you are doing at the moment.
My focus today is really on helping legacy businesses and companies transform into what I call agentic enterprises, where they truly build the capability and the culture of humans and machines collaborating, because that is truly the future of work. The challenge that most companies are going through is that they're investing in the technology, but the people are getting left behind. And that divide is what I'm focused on closing. How can we build the kind of capability and culture in companies that bring out the best in the humans, but give the leverage and the speed of AI? And that's what my company Flipwork is focused on helping companies transform.
This is really a very important work. And I would like to ask you now, for legacy businesses, what are you talking about when you refer to a legacy business?
Frankly, unless you're an AI native company, every business is now a legacy business because the world has completely shifted with AI. I mean, think about what companies used to be like before the internet. You know, there were brick and mortar businesses and the internet completely changed everything. And every business had to become, go online, whether they're communicating online or selling online. And we're seeing the same exact kind of disruption happen because of AI. That it's, companies have to fundamentally reinvent what business they're in, what speed they operate at, how they use AI throughout the business, not just doing things like AI training, but really rethink what actually distinguishes them, what allows them to build new capabilities, and what allows them to offer new value in the market. And that is a strategic imperative. It's not just a tactical technology implementation. And so that kind of reinvention, what we're seeing cutting edge companies, like the ones that are truly sort of, recognizing the opportunity, they're leaping ahead into that kind of transformation. But most of the market is still kind of operating at this very slow adoption cycle where they're waiting for perfect conditions before they can start thinking in terms of how they operate in the AI.
Yeah, I get you. I remember a couple of years ago, I attended a conference about digitalization here in Latvia. And one of the conferences, and one of the most attended conferences, was about for small businesses to digitize and start opening their websites and start trying e-commerce and payments online. And this was 2 years ago, no? What would be your, and where we are now, no? In that regard, do you think for small businesses, it's recommendable to jump into the AI wagon or to wait a little bit to see how it evolves? Or what is your opinion about that?
What we are seeing right now is a tsunami. It's the start of a tsunami. This is not just a tiny wave that's going to come and go. This is the greatest disruption in modern human history. And when something this big occurs, you cannot afford to just be a bystander and watch it happening. You need to step into the arena. You need to take action. You need to build that expertise and take advantage of the timing. No matter if you're a small business or a solopreneur, doesn't matter if you're a Fortune 500 company. Every company needs to think about how do they reinvent so that they are able to ride the tsunami instead of getting crushed by it. That's the really pivotal question. The question isn't whether you wait until there's clarity and until there's more certainty for you to take action. The real question is, can you afford not to get started? The advantage for small businesses in particular, though, is that Today, AI is allowing small businesses to achieve so much more with very low cost. As an entrepreneur myself, over the last, several years, every time I've had to build my business was added headcount, so many costs. There's a real limitation in terms of the ability to grow your business if you weren't well capitalized. Today, every business, no matter how tiny, is able to achieve extraordinary outcomes if they leverage AI. And that's just all upside potential. There's absolutely no reason for a small business to wait. They should take advantage of this and jump right.
Another follow-up question to that, and it's very interesting and well put how you are telling it, because I think that someone listening and having a small business or is an entrepreneur or a solopreneur will start to think about what you are telling and start figuring out how could do things to start joining this wave, as you mentioned, no? And as a follow-up question, I continue with the small businesses, if we can. Do you think that it's better to start educating technologically, upskilling, or start to changing the culture of the company or the business to adapt to this new world that we are living? It's an egg and the chicken situation, or
in an ag situation, I think there's a way to do both at the same time. And that's really what, at Flipwork, that's what we help larger enterprises do. Because what we're seeing a lot of big companies do is that they're investing in the technology and the training, right? Of like making sure everybody is kind of up to speed about AI and things like that. But they're not fundamentally changing the culture or the process or the workflows. Everyone is taking all these modern tools and fitting it into outdated processes. So if you look at marketing step by step or sales step by step, everything is still the same, except they're plugging in super power AI tools into that. The downside of that approach is that you don't get the full value of the transformation, because all you're doing is speeding up a little bit of efficiency when you can get a really high ROI if you rethink the entire workflow and get people to feel empowered instead of being replaced by AI. And the same thing is true in a small business as well, is that, do both at the same time, in terms of get more fluent, gain the AI fluency, because you can't afford not to. It's like saying, I don't know how to use the internet, right? Like you have to learn how to do that. But while you're doing that, challenge yourself to think in terms of true reinvention. If I had to run my business a completely different way, if I was starting it today, how would I run it? What allows me to do this same job completely differently because I have AI as my business partner? If you think like that, what might you change in that? The other important angle to look at, especially for small businesses, is think about the risk your business faces because of AI. And what I mean by that is a lot of companies are in businesses where they're providing services that AI can actually do faster, cheaper, better. Will your business even exist 5 or 10 years from now as AI advances? And if that's at risk, start thinking ahead of how you change your business and in what way can you be different. And there's opportunity for everyone. You just have to be ahead of your competition and how you adapt to it, how you leverage it, how you shift the culture around it.
Understood. And do you think that this AI literacy, AI fluency, like you mentioned, is important also for people that is maybe not already an entrepreneur, maybe not already having their own businesses, but they are thinking about it, or they are students, or they are maybe quitting their job or changing country to live in another place? Because we are observing that some of the jobs of the gig economy, some of the jobs that usually you take when you are between jobs are disappearing and are being replaced, like you said, by automation or AI. What you will recommend to these people?
It's an important thing that everyone should be doing. It doesn't matter if you're a student, early in your career, mid-career, or senior, or an entrepreneur. No matter who you are, the most important thing for all of us to do right now is really think about what keeps us relevant. The biggest risk we all face is that we become completely obsolete and irrelevant. There's no need for us and for what we bring to the table. If you're someone who's very good at administrative work, job's probably at risk. If you're an accountant or a bookkeeper or a paralegal, there's so many jobs that a machine can do, including a lot of design jobs. Right? Software jobs are going away. So you have to think about what will keep you relevant and keep you valuable in the market. And once you identify what that is, double down on it, focus on it, and become known for it. Because the risk right now is continuing to hold on to your past when the world around you is completely changing. And one way to like reinvent for the future is to be very clear about how you collaborate with the machine that amplifies what makes you special, leverages the machine to give you the scale and speed you need.
In a previous conversation with some of the other guests, we have I mean, we came to with the notion that in our youth, or let's say in my youth, what you were waiting to be free to feel that you are at the liberty to do whatever you wanted was to get your car, your first car, and nowadays the tool that you get to become free and be at the liberty to do whatever you want, it's digital literacy.
It's the paths of freedom and autonomy.
Yeah.
Because without that, you're still stuck in the drudgery and grunt work. To me, the exciting thing about the future of work is that it truly frees up human potential to focus on things that leverage creativity and imagination and judgment and wisdom, instead of using our time and our capacity for doing grunt work and things that are not worth our true human potential.
And this is something that resounding with almost all of your peers that we had the pleasure to talk here, that it's almost paradoxical that the most important thing to learn in this digital age or this digital revolution period, or however it will be called, is understand what is making us human, and what is making us unique or special, and put that into the equation to become more, not to become relevant, like you were saying.
Yeah, because if we, history is a great way of kind of, getting a sense of the future. And when you look back in history, we were creative beings until the industrial age. And then came factories, and the industrial era took creative, free living human beings and put them in a 9-to-5 box, and put them in cubicles, and put them in repetitive, mind-numbing work. To me, what AI is doing is effectively ending the industrial age, which is a great thing, because we're returning to living the way we should have been anyway.
And this is taking me to another question, because as you mentioned, we are getting out of the industrial age, or we have been getting out for the last 20 something years. But what are we doing with education, with elementary education, secondary education? At what age should we start teaching our kids about how to use AI? Now, this is another debate that it's around and very important, I think.
I think, first of all, a generation will grow up where they will not know a world without AI. You see that in little kids today, that even before they can walk, they can hold an iPhone or an iPad and interact with digital devices. It's so natural. I was watching my nephew kind of, he's, so young, but like everything was a swipe motion for him. Like even looking at a TV, he wanted to swipe the TV to go to the next program. That is just naturally how they get wired. So we're going to see that in future generations where they grow up with AI. And it's completely natural for them to almost like be bionic people, right? Where they're humans and machines just coexisting and co-evolving together. The real challenge is for the older generation to not put curfews around it. The academic leaders, universities and colleges or schools, where they prevent the use of AI because they feel like it's somehow a bad thing. I've had conversations with universities and even with school teachers who don't want the students to use it. But that's like preparing a whole generation that does not have the literacy, AI literacy, that is necessary for the very jobs that they're going to be doing. It's like telling someone, don't use a calculator, learn to do math in your head. Well, it doesn't help you. So the more important thing is, rather than preventing the use of AI, figure out what else you need to build capability around in young kids and in young students that sets them up for long-term success. An example of that is critical thinking skills. Don't prevent the use of AI, but alongside that, teach them critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Teach them, nurture their creativity. Allow all of those things to develop parallel to AI fluency as well. If you do both together, you're going to have a generation that is truly AI native and set up for long-term success.
We need to learn and teach how to climb to the shoulder of giants. And going to the last part of the conversation, that it had been amazing because you are just amazing, so smart. And I wanted to ask you, because obviously you are not only a very smart people, very intelligent, but with a very clear vision of the world and the direction into which I hope we are going. And I want to ask if there is some work of art, a book, a movie, something that when you were little inspired you to be like you are today.
That's a great question. There's a book that I read when I was very, very young, and it was the first time that something sparked my imagination and ambition and vision for the future. And the book is called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And it is a really tiny book. I want to say it's maybe even like 50 pages. It's like a fable, really. It's the story of a seagull that wants to fly really high. And all the other seagulls say, you're not designed for that. You cannot fly that high. None of us can fly that high. And he believes in himself and keeps trying and failing and trying and failing. And one fine day he flies high. And I don't know what it was about that story, but it just stuck with me. And to this day, I have it by my bedside. I've always carried the book because it reminds me as a little girl of believing that you can fly high.
This is amazing. I read once a quotation from Spanish writer Arturo Pérez Reverte that he was sorry for all the people that doesn't like to read because they don't have places where their minds can go and explore and grow. So you have to have something that it's awakening that in you, no?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the greatest gifts that we all have is you can learn through the lives and imaginations of other people in just 150 to 200 pages. The amount of wisdom that is actually available to all of us is incredible. And to not be able to access that and to give yourself that gift, and also the variety and diversity of the reading of so much that is available to us. Reading is my greatest obsession, and I always believe that leaders are readers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in these 20-something minutes, you have give us also a lot of wisdom and a lot of things to think for the future. And coming to the end of this conversation, I would like to ask you if you could tell us what is a transformation you would like to see, something that you think that will happen and you would like that it happen in the next 5 to 10 years, near future.
I'd say I'll share a 10-year vision that I believe will happen, and I'd love to see it happen, is the separation of labor from wages. For the past 100 years, human beings have had to labor to make a living. And we put in our time and our effort and energy into it, and that's how we get a paycheck. And to me, it's still a construct of the industrial age. The power of AI is to liberate us from that, and that the society is so prosperous economically and innovation-wise and all of that. There's so much that gets created, but it's not necessarily dependent purely on human labor. That it is the result of AI and robotics that is able to build this very prosperous society, elevating humans to be in that creative spirit transcendent state and also have the benefits of that kind of prosperous society.
You are dreaming with a Star Trek kind of future. Yeah, me too. I'm in the same line as well. And I remember like a few weeks ago, I think Daniel Presley had a video more or less in that, along those lines, how to start thinking the wages of the future in different components that are related to knowledge and the leverage of the knowledge. But it's interesting that it's all these technological changes are going to that direction. How we are working and how we are going to get paid for the work. One thing just before now, just this is the last question about KPIs, because this is something I think you will have a very good answer to KPIs. Do you think KPIs are still relevant, or should we change this way how we measure performance for something else, for something more relevant, or for something that creates more meaning or long-term effects?
Yeah, well, metrics will still matter. It's a question of what we measure. And the biggest shift we have to make is to shift from measuring effort to value creation, and where the impact and is what we're truly measuring as opposed to the hours. And too many of the traditional metrics are still limited to that industrial age mindset of measuring output or throughput rather than outcomes and innovation. At a macro level, the KPI that will be an indicator of AI's impact on society is rising GDP globally. There's absolutely no reason why all nations are not incredibly prosperous as a result of this. The thing to balance global GDP or national GDP against is how's the distribution of that wealth working out, where done right, you would have everyone benefit in some shape or form. If it's not intentionally managed well, then you could have a more divided society where some people are benefiting disproportionately higher than others.
Yeah.
And the point is not about, having everyone get equal pay. The point is simply it drives home the urgency that it is each of us has the responsibility to prepare ourselves for the future. Because when we do, we benefit collectively on the upside and we contribute to building that future of society. If you keep standing on the sidelines and think this is not going to impact you, it's not for you, not only are you going to get left behind, but you also are not shaping the future. And I think it's such an exciting time for people to really build this utopian society that is actually possible because technology is finally getting us there.
Yeah, it's, just to closing, it's paraphrasing, the old saying that the future or fortune is for the bold, but now the future is for the responsibles. If you learn to be responsible of your life, your finances, your education, your income, you are going to have a better future than someone that it's not doing that, no? Well, thank you so much, Nikki, for your time, for your wisdom, your thoughts, your expertise. It really was a great conversation, at least for me. I learned a lot from you, and I hope it's not going to be the last time that I have the pleasure to share a few minutes with you.
Thank you for inviting me on the show, and I'm excited about the future and appreciate leaders like yourself that are spreading and democratizing that knowledge for everyone else.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words. And thanks to our couple of listeners. Remember, we learn from each other. I wish you agency and a wonderful day. And remember that the future was yesterday. Thanks so much.
Hi, this episode is brought to you by Saule. Building for the future shouldn't feel overwhelming. Saule is an all-in-one solution designed to support you at every stage. From shaping an idea to AI-powered customer service. But Saule don't just focus on technology. They help you make sense of it and actually use it in a way that works for you. If you're looking to grow, adapt, or future-proof your business, check out Saule.